Hey, welcome back to the Bums and the Bleachers podcast. It's been a while. I know we obviously haven't talked since September, since the loss to the Brewers and obviously the halt in the Cubs' run towards another World Series title. But we're back. We're back because we've got a lot of news. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. So super excited. Yeah, go.
I was just going to say the Cubs, they saved every big move they could for, this past week leading up to the convention. It almost feels like, this almost feels kind of like a Jim Hendry era offseason, because that's like kind of what they would always push is like do it like the week leading up where there's like the most kind of fan hype towards it. But anyways, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. No, it was great. I mean, it's honestly exciting to see them actually sign somebody. And I think we obviously we'll talk through like the implications of the signing, what this means for potentially the rest of the roster. They still have a few spots on their 40-man and they're kind of pressing that first tier of the luxury tax. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do over the next few weeks, because spring training's right around the corner. We got pitchers and catchers ready to report next month.
Yeah, I think the dates actually just came out today. I think, February 10th for the Cubs? So getting started nice and early.
Only 3 more weeks. So
yeah.
But with that said, we've been away for a while. So, it's been a busy couple months. What's been up with you? What have you been up to?
I've been mostly just kind of staying, busy with work and everything, and obviously enjoying the hell out of this Bears season. Nothing really too eventful for me. I know you were on the road over the holidays and got to do some stuff with your family. How'd that go?
Yeah, no, man, it's been, December is always such a crazy time for me for work. I work in the eye care industry, for my day job, so that's my real life big boy job. And it's December typically is pretty hot and heavy because it is like end of year insurance rush, and everyone's just trying to offload their insurance benefits and everything. So, every day feels like a Black Friday the last week of December. And so there's so much prep work and scheduling that goes into it. And I'm on the road like a good portion of it. And, I'm on the road the day after Christmas until New Year's Eve. And I'm gone, so I did a couple splits, thankfully I got to work in a store that was a little bit closer to home. And then I was in Indianapolis for a few days. And then after the 31st, that's the end of the year. I took January 1st off, and I was off until pretty much this past Monday. So had a good few days off. And, you mentioned it. We took the family, we went out to Disneyland. So my daughter just turned 6 on the 2nd. So we surprised her with a Disneyland trip. It was pretty funny, man. Honestly, to be completely honest with you, it was super funny the way we did it. So she had no idea we were going. It was a complete surprise for her. And we were wondering, how are we going to be able to surprise her, and really get her to believe, we're going somewhere else, or that we're not doing something like this big. And each step we were kind of tricking her and saying she was coming on a work trip with me. And her mom, and she was, honestly, it was so funny because she was so pumped for that. And I told my wife, I was like, we spent thousands of dollars on this trip. We really could have just taken her on a work trip and she would have been equally as happy. But anyway, we get to the hotel in California and she's like, oh my God, is this where you work? And is this the hotel you always go to? And I'm like, no, we have a surprise for you. We actually are not going on a work trip. We are here to go to Disneyland. And she freaked out and was just yeah, so pumped. So we spent a week out there in California, and dude, it was chilly. It was
oh really?
It was high 50s. I think the warmest day of the week was 62.
Wow.
Windy. We had some mornings walking to the park where it was 38 degrees still.
It had some days here in Chicago where it was not far off from that.
I know. And I was
over the holidays. So yeah.
Yeah. The weather was so similar. I'm just what the hell? We're supposed to leave Chicago when it's 15, 20 degrees and go to 70-degree weather. And
Yeah.
We didn't do that, so it wasn't terrible. It was just surprisingly chilly for what we expected. I mean, we were still in hoodies and light jacket, but not too bad.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, and then obviously on the trip, we were texting each other because we got the big news. You actually broke the news to me because I was, off and riding rides and doing all that stuff, being a dad. But I was
Mhm.
shocked hearing that. And I know we obviously want to talk through, all the off season stuff and obviously the big signing, but that was huge. That was really surprising to see that the Cubs open up the checkbook a little bit. What were your initial thoughts when, I guess, when you saw the signing?
Well, I mean, we're talking about Bregman right now, where it just, I mean, it obviously like being in the middle of that Bears game and everything and having like,
Yeah,
all the anxiety with them being down so much at that point.
yeah,
And then like actually like kind of saying, okay, well, you know what, if baseball season is the next thing to look forward to, like at least the Cubs made, a move that we were kind of hoping they would make. And yeah, I mean, they have third base solidified. They have a bat in the lineup that probably isn't going to reach what Kyle Tucker's peak was, but will probably
right.
replicate what Kyle Tucker was for the Cubs last season, I would say. I mean, Alex Bregman had, a probably better than expected year with the Red Sox last year, up to a 360 on base percentage. He did miss some time with an injury, but he still wound up having about 500 plate appearances, and is a true leader in that clubhouse. Probably something they've been missing since Anthony Rizzo was traded. So, yeah, I mean this is huge. Like actually, like legitimately looking forward uh to the start of the season now with these new additions, and we'll get into the other big one too. But
Yeah.
Bregman adds a serious bat to the lineup that I think they were lacking. After having Tucker walk.
Yeah, and like I want to spend more time talking about Bregman, the signing, what it means for the lineup, what it means for the team. Um, but before we get into that, it was such a slow start to the offseason, and it felt very typical for the Cubs offseason, right? Where we're seeing a lot of these like smaller signings. You had mentioned earlier via text to me, the Phil Maton, Tyler Austin, Hobie Milner,
Mhm.
Hunter Harvey, like very, very small, typical 1 year deals that Jed is known for to solidify a bullpen. Not a lot of length. I think a couple of one of the guys got 2 years. Was it Milner that got 2 years or was it Harvey? I can't remember.
I, mm, I think
Or maybe it
Milner
was
said.
Maton. One of them. I think one of these four got a 2 year deal, and then I think everyone else was a 1 year deal. If I'm not incorrect there, but it seemed like a very typical Cup season where it's like we're not going to sign Tucker. We're going to look to creatively build our roster through trades, offering
Mhm.
some prospects, signing 1 year deals to solidify a bullpen that Craig Counsell kind of openly talked about and said that it's not the bullpen that they expected to have. And I don't think it sounded like he was particularly happy with last year's bullpen and that construction. So I think now maybe he's got a little bit more say in it. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean these are names that they feel good based on statistics. They seem like they're going to be great additions, but they're not names that pop out to you. They weren't, the Edwin Diaz where, the Dodgers went out
Yeah.
and they spent even more money solidifying their bullpen, which was a pain point for them last year. Even though they won the World Series, you would probably arguably say that their
Well,
weakness was their bullpen, right?
I was going to say, yeah, you get down to like some of those games in the World Series, and they're throwing like, guys who they planned at the start of the year to be starters, like Roki Sasaki was coming in at
Right.
those games. That one crazy long extra inning game, you had Yamamoto come in and pitch in
Right.
that game. So yeah, they really did need to solidify the bullpen there. But I mean, I think we've come to the point where with Jed, we have realized that like the bullpen is maybe the one area we can give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt on, because like they have been towards the top of the league in lowest ERA over the last few years for bullpen. And there have been, some hiccups there with Ryan Presley and Hector Neris the year before. But, I mean, I'll say this, that the guys that they got, your Phil Maton and Hunter Harvey especially, like, I'm excited for them because, like, I feel like they were in a similar place, like those guys in particular were kind of in a similar place to where, say, a Brad Keller was at the time that the Cubs signed him last year. And then with Hobie Milner, you're getting, I've been begging and pleading for this ever since Craig Counsell became manager. Get him some guys that actually like were good for him in Milwaukee that he had some familiarity with. Hobie Milner fits that bill pretty well. Yeah. And Hunter Harvey throws really hard. He has, high fastball, high velocity we've been looking for. Phil Maton has really good breaking stuff. So, you're getting a couple different options here. Tyler Austin fills the spot probably left by Justin Turner, where it'll be, he'll be facing the lefties and playing first base, probably driving me nuts because I want to see Michael Busch take those at bats, but it's what Craig wants, so we'll deal with it.
Yeah, that was kind of a surprising signing to me too. What is he, 34 to 36 years old, Tyler Austin? I know he's a little bit older, and he's coming, was it from the Nippon League last year?
Spent a couple years in Japan.
So that was kind of a shock to me. I don't know that I necessarily am surprised that they're looking to split time with Busch still, because for whatever reason they're just not trusting him in that lineup against lefties. But Tyler Austin, the name was more surprising to me than anything else, where it's like they didn't bring in somebody else that I thought could have been like a better bat, and I don't know, to be honest, I don't know who that name would be for me, but Tyler Austin was definitely not at the top of my list of like a replacement for Justin Turner. But you know what? He fits the Cubs MO because he's cheap. So, it's a very cost effective, player. And then also I think like, I don't know, I feel like, Moises Ballesteros would have been interesting, maybe splitting some time at first and trying to get him to play some first a little bit if you're trying to give him more at bats. But I don't know. I don't know what all of this does to the construction of the lineup too. Like, and like I said, we'll kind of get to it when we get to the Bregman conversation. But again, it's a lot of names that just don't pop off the page to you,
Right, for sure. But okay. So you brought up Moises Ballesteros. I could possibly see too Tyler Austin being maybe a bit of a shelter for him as well too. Ballesteros, I believe last year only had like 4 or 5 plate appearances against left-handed pitching total. So, I mean, not to say that like that's going to be the norm. I think most lineups will feature Moises Ballesteros at DH next season. I do think maybe there's a possibility that Tyler Austin is the guy that, like, if Ballesteros goes into the slump, that you plug him in for a few games, maybe build up Ballesteros. Don't let Ballesteros lose any confidence in him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all of this too, really, there were some other things that kind of happened in the offseason that really kind of kicked us off in a really, I would say, a really weird and interesting way. I think, the Shota Imanaga accepting the qualifying offer was a little particularly interesting just because there were a lot of reports coming out saying that Shota did not want to sign the offer. The Cubs didn't want to extend him at that point. It felt like they were on the outs and that Shota would be a free agent. And then all of a sudden he accepted it, right? And I think what was it at $20 million per year was the final acceptance, or
22, I think it was
22.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he didn't. So basically, he had the opportunity. Sorry, let me go back. He had the opportunity to opt in to extend the contract, and he turned that opt-in out. And the Cubs had a team option, correct? Was that it?
Well, first it was the Cubs. The ball was in their court first. They could have picked up 3 more years of him.
Right, that's what it was.
Yep. That. Then Shota had a 1-year option for, I believe, for $15 million, and
Yeah.
He turned that down, and then qualifying offer happened after that. So
That's what it was. Correct. Yeah. So, and I think we had some mixed feelings about Shota for the long term too. I think, we obviously saw the first year that he came in, he had really ace-like stuff. And, as he continued to, be more familiarized with the MLB lineups, they were starting to figure him out a little bit more. Right. And I think like we knew all along that he was a fly ball pitcher. He was going to put the ball up in the air and gave up a lot of home runs last year.
Towards the end, especially too. Yeah.
Yeah. And towards the end, he was running out of steam. And it got to the point that Craig Counsell skipped his start in the playoffs and went to Matthew Boyd, a tired Matthew Boyd. What was it in game 1 and then I think what was it, game 5, they skipped him again. Was that?
Well, I think Boyd was probably going to pitch game 1 regardless because Shota did pitch game 2 of that Padres series.
Yeah.
So he probably wasn't going to be available for game 1 of the NLDS. But the way it did line up, Shota did pitch game 2 and then would have been in line to pitch game 5.
Right.
And Craig chose to go with a bullpen game for that.
Yeah.
Didn't exactly work, but Cubs also only scored 1 run in that game, so what would have really mattered,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Shota, he had his struggles, but he was also hurt for a good part of last year too. I think over the course of over the whole body of work of him as a Cub, they are like 36-18 in the games that he starts. And he's still someone who, he'll have his home run problems. He keeps traffic off the bases, though. Like, he doesn't walk a lot of guys, won't allow a lot of runners on. When he does, he finds a way to get out of it. And I think now with, some of the other additions to the rotation that weren't here at the start of last season, Shota is probably like the number 4 starter, maybe the number 5 starter when Justin Steele comes back at some point in 2026. So you're not expecting him to be the same ace that he was in 2024. And, I think they can live with that. Uncle Ted saying Shaw Ballesteros and Alcantara for Air, Yordan, Alvarez. I don't know if Houston would want to do that, but it's a thought. Sure.
Yeah, Houston's not doing that. That'd be great, but I would do that in a heartbeat, but that ain't happening. Right. Yeah, so I mean, the Shota saga was interesting to say the least, and I think if anything, it gives you some depth from a rotational standpoint, because I think obviously the next guy we talk about will kind of talk how it's lengthened that rotation, and we still have Justin Steele coming back later in the year as well too, and it looks like by all accounts he's starting to progress in a really nice way, and he's feeling good from what he's saying. We haven't heard from the club yet on how they feel about him, but and I'm sure he'll be on a pitching's limit anyway when he does return. But I guess the one thing is, like, it eats such a big portion of your payroll when you're spending $22 million on a starter that, to your point, is potentially a 4 or 5 guy when Steele comes back, right? So it eats a good chunk. So I don't know if I necessarily love that he re-signed, and I do, and I think Shota's great. He's a fan favorite. We love him for many different reasons. He's hilarious. He loves Chicago. But I don't think that I don't know if the value's there in terms of like what his contracts cost for what he's providing at that point. And I maybe he turns it around in the next year and he comes back and proves to be a strong back end of the rotation, but they're not signing Bo Bichette.
No, not it. Yeah, I wouldn't imagine after. I know that's a guy you really liked, that you really wanted, like that you talked about the course of last offseason or last.
I would have preferred to see Bo Bichette over Alex Bregman, and again we'll get to it. Later when we get to the Bregman conversation. Yeah, I was a big Bo guy, so but yeah, they're not bringing him in.
Possibly.
Yeah, I don't think Bichette's going to the Astros either. I think Bichette probably ends up with the Yankees at this point, and uh, I think either that or surprisingly, I would say the Red Sox now could be in the mix because
Okay.
their fan base is ready to riot. So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
they
Red Sox
lost.
until today had not signed a free agent at all until they signed Framber Valdez today.
Oh, they
Or
did. I missed that.
not Framber Valdez. Ranger Suarez.
Oh, right. Okay. I was gonna say, I was like, I didn't see that happen. Yeah, I think it's pretty funny with what happened with the Red Sox too. They sign Rafael Devers to a big deal, and then a year later regret spending the money and saying, "Well, we're going to trade him away. He's not great for the team." And now with all this money, we're going to be able to bring in Alex Bregman, which they do, and then they lose out to the Cubs by $10 million.
Yeah.
From the accounts that we're seeing is, I think they only wanted to go 165. They didn't want to go above that. And the Cubs went 175 with a ton of deferrals, but which good for. Also, let me pause there. The Cubs did some deferrals. That
Right.
feels very unlike the Cubs to do something like that, right? I want to make sure I give credit where credit is due because that doesn't seem like a Cubs move.
Someone finally got in Tom Ricketts' ear and told him, like, hey, you will save money. You will save money if you defer it. Because that money
Right.
will not, it will be chump change to you later down the line when you have to pay.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, but I think I'm going to put that out there. I'm going to say the Red Sox might be the dark horse for Bo Bichette now because they have a hole at third base. Bo has showed a willingness to switch to third base. So, and I don't know if he's got the defensive prowess, but I mean the bat plays, and I think
that definitely plays, especially right-handed hitter at Fenway Park too. Monster,
yeah, double machine right there.
Yep.
Well, I guess anything more you want to talk about the Shota accepting the qualifying offer? I don't know if there's anything else that you had felt about it, or were you a fan of it? I guess, like, I know because you were a big Shota guy. I mean, you were year one.
Yeah, big Shota guys, and I still kind of am a big Shota guy. And I mean, look, I do think that the thing in the playoffs got a little overblown because the Cubs were shorthanded as far as starting pitching went. They just had Cade Horton go out.
Yep, Justin Steele obviously lost for the year.
Yeah, they right. They kind of forced Matthew Boyd into game one, which forced Shota Imanaga into game two. And I do feel like if they had maybe just it's hard to say this in hindsight, but like if they had just, done a bullpen game one and decided to, maybe just see, hey, if this could carry us or just punt and save a day for the rotation to get back to its regular rest, that maybe by then, Shota, he would have been slated to pitch game three at Wrigley with the wind blowing in, would have been a lot more favorable to him. So, I'm not going to let one decision at a time when the Cubs were, not exactly in a good position roster-wise. I'm not going to hold that against Shota. I will ask you this. Do you think it was the right move to give him the qualifying offer? Because there was some debate about that I saw on Twitter at the time.
Yeah, like I said, I probably personally wasn't a fan of it. I think that the $20 million could have been used somewhere else, especially because I think Uncle Ted here had mentioned it too. Jackson Wiggins is coming up too, so I think you have some potential pitching depth that's coming up the pipeline that would obviously be a little bit cheaper, and I think you could have maybe used that money towards another starter, and you could have found maybe another Matthew Boyd or Colin Ray that it doesn't have to be a number one starter because they ended up trading for one. You know what I mean? But I think if you're projecting Shota to be a fourth, I think you could find value somewhere else for a fourth or fifth starter, maybe at 15 million, or 12 million a year.
For sure. I just guess the other side of that would be if you don't, then you lose him and don't get any sort of draft pick compensation for that. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, I guess. I'm happy that they at least did the due diligence of it, and he's back for better or for worse, and at least now there's a little less pressure on him in this rotation than there was, in 2024, 4 games in after Justin Steele got hurt on opening day. And then,
Yep.
same thing this year, 2 weeks in when Justin Steele gets hurt. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how it all plays out. I think Shota will bounce back.
I mean, if he does, I think that's going to look really nice. I mean, that rotation is going to look really, really nice. If he has a bounce back year to what he did in his first year, back in 2024, and he looks like that, top of the rotation kind of guy again, I'm going to feel really great about our chances in the playoffs, because I mean, I do think that this team has a playoff roster right now. And, I think they should compete for the division again. But yeah, I think that I think that roster will look really nice if Shota can bounce back. That's for sure. Because the big trade that happened that kicked off the whole off season, and this happened obviously also while I was at Disneyland. So maybe I need to go back to Disneyland because this is when they're making all these moves. But Edward Cabrera getting traded for, obviously giving up Owen Casey stung a little bit, and I think like we talked about it too, right? Like prospects are what they are. They're prospects, right? We don't know what they're going to equate to. And I think it's pretty funny because I don't know if you caught this. Was it Harold
Reynolds?
Harold Reynolds was talking about it on MLB Network. They were, it's all last year. They were saying, this guy had a long swing. He strikes out a lot. He hasn't been putting the ball in play a lot. He's got some good power, but he's going to strike out and he's going to whiff a lot. And then, the next thing he gets traded and he's calling Owen Casey the second coming of Kyle Tucker. And he was talking about how the swing path is so similar to King Tuck. And, this is going to be a future superstar for the Marlins. And I always find that so funny when these guys are on their teams. There's a lot of questions about like, we don't know if they're going to make it or not. We don't know what they're going to be. And then once they get traded, there's like this hope of superstardom. And, I don't know what Owen Casey's going to be. I think we were both really big on Big Red, right? But
yeah, definitely. I mean,
he was on was it Team Canada that he performed really well, like in the was it the World Baseball Classic that he was on Team Canada for, and I want to say he played pretty well for them. So there was some glimmers of hope, but the Cubs get a frontline starter. That's the main headline here. And I know that injury history is not great. He's only pitched over 100 innings one time in his career, and that was last year. I do know that the numbers have gotten progressively better every year. His walk rate has come down. His strikeout rate's gone up. His ERA's come down every year. His FIP has come down every year. What are your thoughts? I mean, about the entire trade, are you a fan of them picking up Cabrera? Are you concerned? Are you bummed about Owen Casey being gone? How are you feeling about it?
Well, I mean, number one, with regards to Owen Casey, I always did like him as a player. It sucks that like that was the high price that you had to pay for him. But at the same token, 2020 going into 2026, there wasn't a starting spot available really for him. He was going to be a fourth outfielder more or less because your outfield is set for this year. Your best bet with him was going to be waiting until after this year when Happ would be a free agent and then he would become your everyday left fielder, or you'd maybe move, say, a Suzuki to left field and he becomes your everyday right fielder. At any rate, I think they realize that he's not as valuable to them now as he would be as an Edward Cabrera would be. And, so I'm in favor of the move. They needed a front of the line starter. They got one. What I would like to know is, we did hear Edward Cabrera's name in some trade talk at the deadline, as well as, Sandy Alcantara, too, sticking with Marlins pitchers. And I'm just wondering, like, what was the price for him around that time? Because, like, if this deal could have gotten done then, it would have looked huge then to add an Edward Cabrera to this pass rotation. And, then you have an extra arm where you don't have to do bullpen games in the playoffs like they did.
Yeah. I wonder if the offer was very similar to what they actually offered now, because I do know that the Marlins wanted Owen Casey originally, and it does feel like the Cubs may have been open to moving Owen Casey last year because, he was coming off the bench at that point, and
he was a big name mentioned, I think, in rumors when in last offseason when like Luzardo's name was being mentioned.
right,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Cabrera's price, maybe it just came down just a tad because of the injury history. He still went through the year, and he missed some time last year. So I question if like the offer was similar. I think it started with Owen Casey, and it didn't end there. But I wonder if maybe they wanted Owen Casey and Jackson Wiggins, because I think the big thing that you heard when the trade went down was that the Cubs were not offering any of their pitching prospects. And I thought that was an interesting thing to highlight, because it makes me feel like the Marlins might have wanted pitching back originally. So I wonder if it was Casey and Wiggins as part of like the deal, and the Cubs were like, no, that's just too much to offer, which I'm glad that they didn't. But yeah, I think, I would say that I'd be more concerned with Cabrera had they not had the length of the rotation that they currently have. Because you look at their rotation as it stands right now, you have potentially 8 to 9 guys that can start games for you.
Oh yeah.
Going into the year, right? You've got Matthew Boyd coming back, and I think we also need to prepare for the idea that regression could probably happen with Matthew Boyd. This is the most amount of innings he's pitched in I don't know how long, if ever.
Right. I got something to add to this when you're done, but
yeah.
Go ahead.
So you got Matthew Boyd, you got Shota Imanaga, you've got Colin Ray coming back, you still got Javier Assad, you got Justin Steele coming back, you've got Cade Horton, you've got Ben Brown, and then now you've got Brown. Cabrera. Yeah, you got Cabrera now. So I mean, you've got 8 to 9 guys that you could potentially. I feel like I'm missing someone. Cade Horton. I don't know if I said him or not, but
are we still including like Jordan Wicks in this too? I mean, I guess
Jordan Wicks is another. Yeah, Jordan Wicks is another guy. Jackson Wiggins could be coming up. So you've got maybe up to 10 guys that you can legitimately start at any point during the season, which, we see now baseball has shifted completely where, it is like, it's crazy when anyone goes above 150, 175 innings at this point. There are no guys that really go above 200 innings at this point or more. And you're starting to see less of the 35, 36, 37 starts per year. You're seeing more around the 30, 32 mark as like a high water mark. And that's like impressive. So I do think, you're starting to see the shift in MLB, which I'm not going to be surprised in the next few years if we start seeing 6-man rotations or more. Because we're already kind of seeing like, the toll on these arms. And now with the pitch clock too, like we're seeing more injuries. There needs to be more rest and some decompression from the throwing angles and the velocity that we're seeing. So I like Cabrera now more than I probably would have mid-season, because I do think that they can stretch these guys out a little bit more with the ability where it's like, if Cabrera's feeling a little soreness, we're going to put him on the 15-day IL just to give him some rest at this point, right? And I don't want to say manipulate the IL, but you know what I mean? Like you're essentially manipulating the IL because you're giving these guys days off and rest, and you're able to bring somebody else in, to pitch in your rotation. So I do like it more now because of that, but I'll let you go. And I know you have a Matt Boyd thought.
Well, I was just going to say, I have the 2025 Dodgers baseball reference page up right now, and just looking at how they use their pitchers, the only guy who pitched more than 112.2 innings is what Clayton Kershaw pitched last year, and that was good for second. The only guy above him on their roster was Yamamoto. At 173 and 2/3 innings. That does also include a guy that they traded in Dustin May, who threw 104. So take that, with a grain of salt. But like, it did help for them that like they had like Ohtani wasn't pitching to start last year, and that Blake Snell was out for most of the year until he came back in like August or September or whenever it was.
Yeah.
So I mean, not the elite arms that those guys are, but that
Right.
is a good plan to have with depth in case that you have a guy falling off. And I was going to say this about Matthew Boyd. So like you brought up, like he had such a heavy workload this past season. It does feel like now with the addition of Edward Cabrera that like when Justin Steele comes off the injured list, that kind of gives the Cubs the luxury to maybe take Matthew Boyd and turn him into like, the new, like what Drew Pomeranz was for them last year. Use him lighten his workload a little bit, don't make it so that you're relying on him as heavily as you were coming off of a lot of years where he hadn't really been pitching all that much. So yeah, that's the way I think it goes.
Yeah. So going back, obviously Cabrera I think he's got like a high upside, high ceiling. You've got 3 more years of control. They obviously avoided arbitration with him. He's only going to cost you a little less than $5 million at this point per year, which is a steal for potentially what can be a frontline starter for you. So I think from the cost standpoint, like what you get from him at $5 million will feel like great value. So smart move by Jed Hoyer. Like I said, I'll give credit where credit is due. I think, man, the stuff he has he's got a changeup that's like in the mid 90s, a changeup.
Yes.
So I feel like that is going to be something that the Cubs have sorely missed because they had a lot of guys in the rotation that pitched to contact and they allow their defense to clean up a lot of those things. And, I think like being a guy that offers something different, it plays even better in the playoffs. And I think that's where it's like, I like the arm for the playoffs. So do what you got to do to keep him healthy throughout the year. If he needs extended breaks and IL stints and stuff like that, and I know I'm saying that now because I know when the season starts, as soon as he goes on the IL, I'm going to be pissed off and freaked out that they traded away going Casey for him. But I think just that's why I'm speaking now because I'm more level headed about it. And I probably will be less as the season goes on. But I think like keep him healthy, have him ready for October because that's an arm you need in October for sure. And it's something so different than the Cubs have ever had over the last few years in terms of frontline starting.
For sure. Sure, you're not going to be upset about them trading away future A-Rod and Christian Hernandez too?
Yeah, that was a big one for me that I didn't really love that part of the trade too. And again, like I know the guy is only 19, 20 years old. There's definitely a lot of opportunity for him to continue to grow in his role. And I think that like he hasn't progressed to the point that I think that they thought he would at this point. But for me, the A-Rod comps always got me pretty hyped about the kid, and being a 5-tool shortstop, like those guys are just, they're gold, right? So,
yeah.
But you made the fair comparison. Like we felt the same way about Gleyber Torres and,
exactly.
Chapman got us a ring. So if Cabrera could get us a ring, it's a moot point.
Well, the nice thing too is Cabrera is here through 2029.
Yeah.
You don't get it this year. You'll have a couple cracks at it with him.
Yeah, true.
So,
all right, the big one, Alex Bregman. Wow, 5 years, $175 million. I want to point out that the Cubs still have not gone over a $200 million contract for a player under this regime.
Hey, they did break the mold with this is now the highest AAV they've ever played a player, $35 million.
It is.
Although again with the deferrals and everything, that brings it down to what, 30? I think.
Yeah, and I don't think that the Cubs are opposed to high AAVs. I think what the Cubs are scared to do is anything more than 6 or 7 years, and they're afraid to go anything above 200 million. I think those are the two things that we haven't seen that this organization do under the the Theo or Jed, whatever regime you want to talk about. They haven't gone to that extent yet. And I don't think they ever will. So, but I do think you're getting them at age, 32. So you'll have them till age 37 season, which I think is ideal for most baseball players. Cause after about 36, you start to see the real big breakdown of them, their bodies just take a toll.
Right.
But I do like what he has to offer, and I think you kind of said it. He's not. I don't think he's going to give you the production that Kyle Tucker gave you last year, and I don't even think Kyle Tucker had a Kyle Tucker year. To be honest with you,
No.
I thought it was a good year. I didn't think it was anything that felt MVP worthy that I think we were expecting. Because I think I want to say you had a prop bet for MVP for the National League last
Yeah,
year.
I bought into the hype early in the season,
Yeah.
and it was looking good through June though, but then he
Yeah.
kind of fitted out. But yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think he's going to replace that, but I think, man, you nailed it. He is going to give you, he's a great contact hitter. I think he's an ideal number 2 hitter in that lineup, especially if you've got like, Michael Bush or Nico Horner leading off. You've got two, you've got contact guys at the top of that lineup there. He's going to provide leadership that I think that this team has sorely missed since Rizzo. I mean, you nailed it. You hit the nail on the head with that comment, because Kyle Tucker to me was not, and I think even the comments that we heard after the year, now looking in retrospect, it almost felt like he had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like he had 1 foot in on the team, but he also had the side of like, hey, this team is not bringing me back. I need to look towards next year when I'm a free agent and where I'm going to get paid. And that's, hey man, from a human standpoint, I totally get that, right? Like the Cubs did nothing to say like, hey, we want this guy back. And it's fair for him to feel that way, but he never felt like, I didn't get that leadership from him, like that kind of feel where he's like, hey guys, we're down, 2-0 to Milwaukee right now. We can do this. Like, let's, I didn't get that feeling. And Bregman, I think, is going to be that dude for that.
For sure. I guess, with Tucker, that like, you see where he's rumored to be going now in, the Mets and the Blue Jays kind of being the 2 big suitors for him. And that like, those are 2 teams that are already kind of built up and have some guys that are like the faces of those franchise. I don't know that Kyle Tucker was ever someone who ever wanted to like embrace that sort of thing. And, it sucks because when he's healthy, he's a hell of a hitter. And he, did some great things for this Cubs team last year. But I mean, yeah, with Bregman, you got a guy who like was, I mean, again, in those Houston days, it was a bunch of different guys, but like there were times when he was like the central figure of that team. And like, he was definitely looked at as the leader of that team. And you're getting a great player in him too. I mean, you're getting a Gold Glove third baseman. You're getting you're getting a really good bat. And, I know there's some concerns about, last year, if you looked at his like baseball savant page, he was like a really big pull hitter. I saw a lot of people making the comparison saying like, this is Isaac Paredes all over again.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to be the case because he is someone who I think he adjusts well to whatever ballpark he's playing in. He did that because Fenway, does favor pull more than gap hitters. Houston, he was more of a gap hitter there. I think he'd do well at Wrigley. He reminds me of like one thing I really do find like a lot about Seiya Suzuki is that like he's someone who knows how to hit pretty well when the wind is blowing in and to try and like shoot for that like left center gap right by where like the video board is. I feel like Alex Bregman will be someone who takes advantage of that quite a bit.
Okay.
And then going back to like the whole leadership thing, like remember last year there would be moments where like you'd see a young player like Matt Shaw had a couple moments like this where he was frustrated with some moment and you saw Justin Turner kind of take him by the side and give him a talking to and everything. And I feel like Bregman would be perfect for something like that. I mean, I do wonder if there's maybe some bitterness on Shaw's end now that it's the guy who's like kind of taking his full-time job. But, I can't imagine that he's not a guy that Shaw wouldn't at least respect as, a third baseman who has observed him for quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think like what Bregman offers you are things like, we had complained about this for years too. Like just going back to, again, just to piggyback on the leadership thing, like there hasn't been like, I don't think anybody in that clubhouse, other than Justin Turner, which is a guy that, like, let's be honest, like, it's nice to have those guys in the clubhouse where like they are bona fide leaders and things like that. But I think there's more value when you have a leader in the clubhouse that's actually on the field producing at the same time, versus like a Justin Turner who like played maybe once every like 10 days, or and just didn't have the production. Like, would he have like 3 home runs all year or something like that? You know what I mean? It's like you're going to get a guy that will probably hit about 20 home runs, 20 doubles, be on base maybe 350. When you're down and out, like this guy he's been through it, he's won titles, you know what I mean? Like he knows what it takes to win. So yeah, I think there's just a ton of value from that standpoint, but it also, we're talking about it now. There's a lot of trade rumors that are coming out too now, where there's an overabundance of infielders now for the Chicago Cubs, because they've got essentially, they got their shortstop solidified. I mean, Dansby Swanson's going to be there for the next, 4 more years. You've got Alex Bregman that's now obviously going to be manning third base, who basically, essentially, to your point, replaces Matt Shaw.
With no opt-outs and a no-trade clause, too. So, like, pretty solid.
There.
Yeah.
He's there for the next 5 years.
Right.
So, and we wanted them to fix third base since Chris Bryant. So I think this is a moment where they finally have done something to try to fix that. But now you have a logjam at second. And now what do? You've got Nico Horner, who is making $11 million this year in the final year of his contract. He is looking for another $100 million contract after this. That doesn't sound like the Cubs are really excited about giving him. You've got Matt Shaw, who, in the second half of the year, started to show a little bit more power prowess, and he definitely showed off the leather. He played a really strong third base, after starting off pretty rough at third base with some errors and not playing so great. But I mean, he cleaned it up, and he was a vacuum at third in the second half. So
he was a Gold Glove finalist,
right? Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think is going to happen? What do you want to see happen? I know I joked about it with you. Like, I think Shaw is, to me, I'm not trading Nico. Nico was the heart and soul of that team last year. He was the most consistent Cub and has been the most consistent Cub when it comes to hitting since he's been up here. He is a Gold Glove second baseman. He's a great teammate. He's a leader in that clubhouse. I get he's going to cost you money, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's money. Like, you win, you're making that money up. I think Shaw, to me, feels like a great candidate to dangle for more pitching.
Possibly. The problem is, I don't know what the likelihood of Nico Horner getting extended is beyond this year is. And you have some certainty in Shaw being under control for the next 6 years. So, I mean, look, Nico Horner is obviously the better player, and I want them to keep him and everything. And I think that is ultimately what's going to happen. I think they're going to go into this year with both of them on the roster. I think that Matt Shaw will maybe take a little bit of a backseat from where he was last year, but like, there will be opportunities for him. I do think there are going to be spots where, you could maybe give Dansby Swanson a day off, have Nico play short, have Shaw play second, give Nico a day off, play Shaw at second. I think there's a pretty strong possibility that maybe on days where there's a lefty on the mound, I talked about it with Tyler Austin, maybe taking it a bat away from Moises Ballesteros. Maybe you have Shaw at DH, or you have Bregman at DH, play Shaw at third. I think I don't know that Shaw is going to get traded unless it's for like it's like as part of a package for like a front of the line starter.
I'm calling Detroit. And I'm offering Wiggins. I'm offering Shaw. I'm offering Alcantara. I want Skubal. I want Skubal. Man,
that'd be amazing.
That's what I'm doing. And I don't even know if that gets it done, but I think like you're looking at a guy who's, and I think people probably undervalue Nico Horner a lot because he doesn't have the pop. He's not going to give you the power that I think Matt Shaw potentially could give you. Like Matt Shaw's probably going to hit for more home runs than Nico Horner is going to every single year, right? I think like that feels probably correct and accurate. Nico Horner is a 6.2 WAR player. He's a 6 WAR player. To put this into perspective, Kyle Tucker was a 4.6 WAR player last year. Alex Bregman was a 3.5.
Yeah. And look at the money they just got, or the money that Bregman just got, and that Tucker at least
Tucker's going to get it. Yeah, right. So, you got 1 more year in Nico, and again, he's making $11 million, which I think it feels right for what he's right now. And I know he's probably going to command more. He's probably going to want a 5-year, $100 million plus deal at this point. And I know second baseman, you're probably not shelling out that much for them, especially if they lack power. But
here's what I wonder about with Nico. If he hits the open market, are there going to be teams out there that would be willing to play him at short and pay him like a shortstop too? Because
that's a good point, because he came up
as a shortstop. The only reason why he's not playing shortstop now is because they got Dansby Swanson. So, it's a possibility out there.
That's a good point.
I don't see a world where Shaw gets traded unless, like you said, it's going to be for that type of package. And I think a big reason why is because you got Nico going into that walk year, and you could plug him in at second base, after this season potentially. But look, I guess I would say that, like, I wouldn't want Shaw to be traded unless there is also a Nico extension that follows too. And I don't know that a Nico extension is going to happen either. I mean, I don't know what to think about the Cubs, in terms of, like, are they actually willing to spend now? Because they actually just did. I don't know if there's a limit on this at all, but they kind of just did with the Bregman signing.
Yeah, and like I said, they still need to fill out their 40-man roster, and they're, what is it, $1 million under the first threshold. So, I mean, they're going to have to spend some money, and that's what makes me wonder, are they going to try to offload Nico Horner's $11 million to try to fill out the roster with some cheaper guys? But or like you said, are they actually going to spend? Because there's been talks out there that they have talked to an old friend of ours, an old face that used to play right field for us, and there's been the Cody Bellinger rumblings that maybe they would be open to a reunion if Cody is. So I don't know. It's like, are they actually looking to spend money, or are they looking to get under that threshold?
I don't know that there's anything real to those Cody Bellinger rumors, but I mean, we'll see where that goes.
I mean, we felt the same way about Bregman, and here we are with Bregman.
Yeah. Good point. I don't know. The thing is, like, I don't know if 2 big signings like that are going to happen in the same offseason for this team.
You're probably right. I don't know. I think it's going to be, and I don't know who's playing right. Like, I don't know if I want to see Seiya out there playing right again. I think Seiya was a better DH. I think you probably would benefit from having somebody else playing right field. You kept Seiya a little bit more healthy than you ever seen him, because he only DH'd the majority of the year. So that's where I'm like, I think like it's a mistake to have him out there and right again. And I think also you're putting a lot on Ballesteros' plate to be a 21-year-old DH and really kind of man that full time too, right? So
yeah,
I think it's a dangerous game that they're playing if they don't go out and get another right fielder. And I know there were Starling Marte rumors too that they might be interested in trading for him.
Is Starling Marte still out there?
Trade target, I believe.
A trade target. Yeah. Okay. Well,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think. See, I'm not as worried about Seiya Suzuki and Wright at this point, just because, like, we saw a pretty good sample of him in Wright after Tucker got hurt, and then when he came back and he was, like, strictly only DHing last season. I mean, it wasn't anything special out there, but he didn't kill you. I just hope that like they don't make like some kind of knee jerk say a trade to try to upgrade in right field. Because I feel like this is going to be like a very big year upcoming for Seiya.
Yeah.
With ABS coming into play, he is kind of the guy that like gets screwed over on taking pitches a lot, and with him being able to challenge him, like he's the last guy I want to move.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we saw it too on the picture. Alex Bregman was wearing the number 3 for the first time in his career, not wearing his number 2 because that belongs to
Nico Horner. Yep.
Nico Horner. So
Right.
I don't know. I guess we'll see. But since we talked about Tuck, where do you think he's signing? Because we know we saw the rumors out there that the Mets are offering maybe a $50 million per year on a short-term deal. So high AAV. It just came out right now, actually, as we're talking. The New York Post is reporting that the Mets don't expect Kyle Tucker to sign until at least tomorrow, or make a decision where he's going to sign. I don't know where. I know we heard from the Blue Jays being a top, candidate for Kyle Tucker services. I think they're trying to push their chips in on a World Series push again after falling short. I think the Yankees have been kind of talking about him too to replace Bellinger. I mean, the short porch and right would benefit Kyle Tucker as well. And then you've also got the Dodgers who have kind of sneakily hung around and poke and probe to see if maybe they can get him on a shorter term deal. And maybe Tucker takes it because he wants to win. I don't know. So where do you see Kyle Tucker fitting, and where do you think like he'll end up landing in terms of like total contract?
I mean, it's apparent now, like the fact that he's been on the market this long, that he's not, getting the kind of offers that he was expecting to. We heard all season that it was going to be like $400 million for like 10 years and everything. I think that's pretty much off the table now.
Yeah,
Probably somewhere in the same AAV that Bregman signed for, I would imagine, like 35 million, maybe like 8 to 9 years. But again, there are teams that are conscious out there about, a salary cap coming in with, the new CBA negotiations taking place after the second season. I mean, may or may not happen. We'll see. Where he winds up, I mean, that is so tough. I mean, I think the two teams we've heard the most is Mets and Blue Jays.
yeah.
And I guess the one team I'd probably lean toward is I think it's going to be the Mets because
Wow.
like they have an owner that cares than Steve Cohen. They did actually just shed a pretty good amount of payroll this past, in this offseason thus far, in Pete Alonso walking and Brandon Nimmo getting traded. So
their closer.
Edwin Diaz walking. Yeah, exactly. And like I said, when we were talking about Bregman, like, I mean, I guess either place would fit this, but like, both the Mets and the Blue Jays would be spots where like he could go and he's not like the guy. You got Vlad in Toronto, you got Juan Soto and Lindor and Semien in New York. So I guess I lean more towards the Mets in just that they have probably more to spend and maybe are a little more willing to spend after like how badly this past season ended for them, that like, they went into the last day in contention and came up short. And, I don't think they want to take any chances with having that happen again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because, the Mets, I think if it's a $50 million per year deal, I'm assuming it's probably a 3-year 150 with opt-outs. Right. And that would be my assumption at that point, if it's a short-term deal, because And I don't know if Tucker like would be smart to take that as well too, because I do think that there's obviously the impending strike that will happen in 2027. So I think like if you're the player, you're probably looking for something that's a little bit more longer term. So maybe you sacrifice less AAV and you take the longer deal and something that's more secure. I think there's so much talk about Toronto. It kind of scares me that like it's not going to be Toronto.
Yeah.
I think he probably makes the most sense there. Like I would like to see him play for the Blue Jays. I think like that would be pretty interesting to have him in that lineup to replace Bo Bichette and hit in front of Vlad. I think that would be a fun lineup.
Let me just take a look. What does their outfield look like right now? Because I know they got Dalton Varsho.
Yep.
God, I should know this off the top of my head because they were in the most
they just played
baseball game that I've watched. But
well, they got George Springer out and right.
George Springer too. Okay,
and maybe they move him to left.
Yeah,
it's Davis Schneider out and left, and then Varsho in center.
Right. I'm just thinking because I know there is like an opening for him in the Mets outfield after they got rid of Nimmo. So, and I guess is he okay to play the outfield after all that has happened to him with the injury he sustained last year? But I mean, the Blue Jays did. I wonder if the what willingness do the Blue Jays still have? Because they did already spend pretty big in getting Dylan Cease.
Yep.
Who else did they get? Oh God, why am I blanking on it? There was some other move they made that I'm not remembering.
Let's see. They signed Kazuma Akamoto.
That's okay. Yep. I was thinking it was one of the Japanese guys.
And then Tyler Rogers as well too for 3 years, 37, and then also Cody Ponce for 3 years, 30 million. So they signed a couple starters, a key reliever, and some starting pitching. So and not Kamamoto as the infielder, but
right.
I do think like you probably can move Springer to left to make room for Kyle Tucker and right. Which also, damn, that Houston team was stacked. I think about it. Yeah, George Springer, Kyle Tucker, Jordan, Bregman, Correa. Man, that was a stacked team. You had all these guys that are really, really great players. But yeah, I don't know. I think they said reportedly it sounds like it's between the Blue Jays, Dodgers, and Mets for Kyle Tucker. So it'll be, I guess, interesting to see. Like, does he value the long-term deal or the higher AAV? And I think $50 million per year is insane for Kyle Tucker. I'm sorry, but
especially coming off of this year too. Like,
right? Yeah,
not the greatest of walks years, but
all right.
There's always going to be a team out there that wants to spend that big of money.
Yeah. Well, I know we obviously the big convention's coming up. You mentioned it earlier. You got a little bit of an early start. Meeting a Cub, a fan favorite here. Out at the bars. So, was he old enough to get in? Did you have to sneak him? Did you have to sneak him beers outside?
It probably was carded on his way in. At least I would say
he had to have been. Oh my God, he looks so young. It's
right, for sure. But no, I ran into PCA at Butch McGuire's this past Friday night, and he was enjoying himself and was actually, I think, if you ever come into this sort of circumstance where you see a celebrity or professional athlete out in public, you don't want to rush up to him and everything and right him and everything. He was actually pretty willing to mix it up with some of the people and take some pictures and everything. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, wound up catching him as he was coming out of his booth, and saw Pete Crow Armstrong out at Butch McGuire's, and Yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And I've heard that about Pete too. I think a lot of the things that you hear around too is that he values being a Cub. Like he really truly understands what it means to be a Cub in this city. And he knows what it means to the fans, like how much we care and love the Cubs. And
Hey,
man,
we
he's
keep
just out there.
seeing him at Bear games too, and he's kind of been the good luck charm of the Bears the
Yeah,
last few regular season games, and then this playoff game.
yeah, and I'll bring that up in our flying the W's, taking the L's, but it's cool to see PCA out there mixing it up with fans and stuff. But that's super cool. I'm super glad you got to meet him. But are you going to the convention this year? I know you went last year.
I wish I'm going to try and look on eBay and see if I can get a pass last minute, but I didn't get on it when they were still on sale, and then they sold out.
Yeah.
So at the very least, like, I'll maybe go for a little bit and, without a pass, and just see if, I can find anyone I recognize there. Cause there's always going to be people there that I know.
Yeah.
But officially not yet. Have you ever been?
I've never been to one. And now more than ever, I don't think I ever will, because,
I don't
I'm boycotting, until the Cubs get into the top 5 to 7 in payroll, I will maybe consider going. But when you make top 5 revenue in all of baseball, and you're bottom 5 in the amount of revenue, that percentage of revenue that you pay towards your payroll, I find it really hard to support that. And I think, like, my disdain for Tom Ricketts and his inability to open up the purse strings and, continue to raise ticket prices, continue to raise prices for marquee, make it harder for people to get marquee, when he's so boisterous, calling that we would regret ever bashing, marquee, and saying, we're gonna,
won't be booing marquee in a year. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're still booing. It's been several years and we're still booing, because you can't figure they fucking can't figure it out. Like, they can't figure out where to put this, the streaming service. And the fact that you have the 3rd highest market in all of baseball blacked out for, a number of people who want to catch their team is bullshit. And it's just greedy nonsense. So sorry, I'll get off my soapbox with Tom, because I'll end up spending the rest of the show talking. But that is the reason why I won't go to a Cubs convention. Although you put it here, the 2016 reunion, it's the 10-year reunion of the 2016 World Series champion Chicago Cubs. Joe Madden, I believe, will be there. If I'm not mistaken. So they're bringing back Cubs great Addison Russell instead of Sammy Sosa.
Well, I do wonder with, Sammy is a Cubs Hall of Famer now. I'm sure he got the invite if he's part of that, and maybe he just decided he didn't want to come to Chicago in January, which who can blame him?
I guess I feel like he's probably one of those guys that probably, he's so thrilled to be part of the team again that, I don't know. So, 2016 reunion, you've got some potential new Cubs Hall of Famers. So talk to me about those Hall of Famers. Who do you think's getting in the Cubs Hall of Fame this year?
Well, so
have they announced?
I don't know that they've announced any like possible inductees. I think they just like say it right at the start of the convention and everything. But it has kind of gone a little bit in like chronological order. I think like when they first brought it back, it was like, well, I think the first year was like Jose Cardinal, and then like Pat Hughes was the first one. Then they actually did like 2 players together that like played together. And I think that's kind of the theme of like every year who they induct, because it was Sean Dunston and Mark Grace the year after that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Kerry Wood and Aramis Ramirez going in the year after that. Last year was the big one with Sammy and Derek Lee. And I'm guessing that it'll probably stick in that same era unless they want to coincide the 2016 reunion with it. But I don't think they would just skip ahead that far, because there is a big name out there that like has not yet been inducted that I think is a pretty obvious candidate to get inducted from that same era. I think probably the guy
Giovanni
who's a lock.
Soto.
Not Giovanni Soto, but fairly close. He is someone who will be there in attendance or is was invited and will be there.
Cubs great Bobby Hill. Yeah, Bobby Hill.
Hey, have him and Aramis go in to get. Well, Aramis is already in. No, I'm thinking Carlos Zambrano.
That would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zambrano would be a good addition. They haven't done Maddox yet, have they?
No, Maddox is already in. I want to
say
that,
already
like,
in,
anyone who's in like the real baseball Hall of Fame is like
it's already
by proxy.
Zambrano would be interesting addition to be added in. Is Ryan Dempster in yet?
He's not. That's the other name I was thinking.
Okay, that would be.
I'm not the biggest Ryan Dempster fan, admittedly, but it would make sense. It would make sense. I mean, that those were actually the two that I was thinking of. Was Ryan Dempster and Carlos Zambrano. I mean, the problem with inducting anyone from like the 2016 team is like there were so many like duos for that one. Like you would think that like they maybe wait with Rizzo until Chris Bryant retires and have them both go in.
They have to. I mean, it's just too soon.
Yeah, and then do Lester and Arrieta. I don't know. Did you have any sort of prediction at all about who gets in, or?
No, I think Ryan Dempster would make the most sense to me. I think Zambrano, I completely whiffed on that and forgot about Zambrano. So I think you nailed it there. I think that would make a total sense. For that to happen. I'm trying to think after 2000, 2005, 2003, 2004, right? Because that's really like, I'm thinking the Aramis, Derek Lee, Zambrano years. I mean, you're starting to bleed into Alfonso Soriano, Nomar Garciaparro played for a few years. But I don't think that they did enough as a Cub to warrant being in the Cubs Hall of Fame. Maybe Soriano.
I was going to say maybe Soriano. I don't think Nomar because he
wasn't a Cub long enough. Yeah, it wasn't that long enough. And then you're starting to get into 06, 07, and it's like, man, that was still. I'm trying to think. That was still the years that they got swept back-to-back years, 07, 08.
Right.
And then after that, I mean, we hit some dark times. I mean, you're talking Ian Stewart at that point, right? Like that's who you're getting into. Like there was those rosters were awful. I mean, 100 lost teams. Like I don't think there's anybody from those rosters that I would really look to make. So I feel like maybe you're right that it has to be Zambrano and Dempster, and then maybe they kind of pause a little bit and hold off for like 2016 guys. Because I mean, you're. Anthony Rizzo's got to be at the top of that list. I mean, he's an all-time Cubs great. I feel like, man, Chris Bryant, his playing days, they feel numbered. I forgot I saw a stat that was like something about Chris Bryant's playing time. Like somebody had more starts as a starting pitcher than Chris Bryant had games played or something. It was some wild stat. It was really bad. It was really bad. And I was reading the comments on some of the meme that was posted, and people are like, I forgot Chris Bryant was on this team, and just really mean, awful stuff. And I honestly, like, let me ask you this. This would be a fun discussion point. Because Anthony Rendon officially has retired, I believe, and has ended the run of really bad. What is the worst baseball contract that you've ever seen? Because Anthony Rendon's got to be up there. Albert
definitely up there.
Albert Pujols for the Angels is up there. Chris Bryant, I think, is probably going to be on that list. Strasburg, Steven Strasburg's got to be on that list.
I don't know. Strasburg.
He got paid seven. He got 7 years, 200 and something million after they won the World Series, and I think he only played, was it 3 starts or something like that after?
Oh, okay. It was after they won the World Series. I didn't even realize.
I want to say it was. I want to say it was. I could be wrong, but
okay.
Even if, I mean, he had like maybe he had less than 30 starts in 7 years.
I mean, wow. I don't know. Rendon is like probably the poster child for it. I think you could maybe say like Barry Zito with the Giants too, because he was pretty bad with them. Although I think he was on at least one of their World Series teams. Yeah, I don't know. You could probably get some from like, the dark pre-Theo years for the Cubs too.
Yeah.
And sadly, Soriano would probably be on there.
So Steven Strasburg signed his 7-year, $245 million contract, so an AAV of $35 million per year. After he signed that contract it was December 2019 when he signed it. So starting in the 2020 season, age 31 through age 33, he pitched a total of 8 games.
Oof. That is really bad.
And he essentially retired in 2024. But he pitched a total of 31.4 innings total.
Wow.
For 7 years.
It's so tough because it happened like right on the heels of the Nationals winning it all, and like him kind of being like, after they let Bryce Harper go, kind of the face of that Nationals team.
Yep.
Yeah. Sadly, he's got to be up there.
He was 5th in Cy Young awarding in 2019 and 15th in MVP voting.
Yeah.
And that was the year that they won the World Series.
Yeah. That was a fun Nationals team too, because that was that one that got off to like good. 19-31 start through 50 games or something like that.
And our boy Davey Martinez at the helm.
Was it? Yeah, it was Davey. Jeez,
wow. It was Davey. Yep. All right. Well, let's wrap up here. We'll go through our flying the W's, taking the L's, and obviously we're going to be a little ambiguous when we're coming back. Barring any new breaking Cubs news. We'll try to jump on again if something big happens. I'm not going to be honest. If they sign another Hunter Harvey, I'm not going to be rushing to talk about it. But if they go out and get a Bellinger, or they, maybe they shock the world and they sign Kyle Tucker out of nowhere, we'll jump right back on. But let's do our flying the W's, taking the L's, because I've got a few.
Hello, you play to win the game.
Addison is next. Doors open on the left at Addison.
I say one thing. Go. Let's go. That's a W. That's E1. That's E1. That's a W.
It is a L7 winning.
All right. You want to start with W's or you want to start with the L's? You want to?
I'll start with W. I got a couple of them. One I got is, are you familiar with a group of formerly Oakland A's fans known as Last Dive Bar? You ever heard of them?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Because that was like, I guess, like the nickname they always had for the Coliseum, that it was like the last dive bar remaining in baseball. And they're obviously, not happy with the current state of the A's, and I don't think they're continuously still fans of them or anything like that. They did a pretty savage move in they pulled together some money and bought the trademark for the Las Vegas Athletics. And so now any type of merch that the A's want to try and sell with their impending, to LA, to Las Vegas,
I did see that.
Yeah, they kind of blocked them with them. So Last Dive Bar, big W for that. That's
awesome. I didn't know that. I did see that the Athletics had some challenges trying to get some copyright and trademark names. I didn't know that was the reason why, but that's awesome. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Any other W's?
Yeah, this was just announced today. And if you're someone who I drive a lot, I do ride share and everything like that. So oftentimes I'm listening to the games in the car. And it was just announced today that 670 The Score is actually launching an FM feed of their station now. So they'll be simulcast on 104.3 FM in the Chicago area. So actually get like an HD quality radio of hearing Pat and Ron call every game. So I'm, 670 The Score. It's not what it used to be. I used to be a much bigger fan of them during the McNeil and Spiegel and Boers and Bernstein days. But, Boers and Bernstein or 670 The Score, give you a W on that.
Love that. Cool.
Yep.
I've got a W. Obviously we kind of touched on the, you saw Pete Crow Armstrong out in the bars, but I want to give a W for the city of Chicago, man. I mean, what an exciting time where we've got some really young, exciting players. We've got Pete Crow Armstrong, electric player out in center field for the Chicago Cubs. You've got Connor Bedard, who's starting to finally come on for the Chicago Blackhawks and is starting to look like the generational player that you thought he was going to be. Caleb Williams is starting to look like the generational quarterback that we all were hoping that he would be, and winning some really gutsy games and making some unbelievable throws that, like, I think it's like once or twice a game he'll make a throw that you're like, holy shit, like there's only a couple guys in the league that can make a throw like that, and he's one of them. And good for us, because we deserve that. I'm going to give us the W because we deserve it. We've gone through hell with quarterbacks, and it looks like we finally have the guy. And the Iceman cometh, man. Whenever they're down, that team is never truly out. And he plays like a man possessed, and it's super fun to watch. And again, like guys that are embracing the city, embracing each other. You saw Connor Bedard like tweeting Caleb Williams and vice versa. You see Pete Crow going to Bears games and hanging out with Caleb, and like it is so cool to watch all these young guys hopefully grow together forever in the city and just be here for the next 10, 15 years being like the face of the city. It's a super cool time.
Yeah, good call. That friggin' the Saturday night was like one of the best nights in Chicago sports in a long, long time. Combined with the Bears coming back and winning that game against the Packers, and the Alex Bregman signing, and Bulls and Blackhawks both won that night too. So
all within an hour,
right?
And I don't know if you caught it. Io DeSumo from the Bulls at halftime was getting interviewed, and they're like, "Oh, the Bears are down 21-6." He's like, watch them come back, and then he peaced, like the Bears are coming back, and he like peaced out. And lo and behold, like within the hour, all of this stuff happened. Like what a great hour for Chicago fans. Right. It was just truly like a great 60 minutes of just euphoric bliss. That game was unbelievable. I mean, it's honestly one of the best nights of my life as a sports fan. I think it hangs up there with like some of the great sports games I've ever seen in my lifetime. In terms of like what it meant. And I know it was just a wild card round, but it's who they were playing, the way that they were playing, the way they came back. And not only that, man, but like I am just like literally eating Green Bay Packer tier soup like all week. I am like on social media getting everything in my algo of like all the crybaby-ness where it's like, oh man, it is like I'm like relishing in it. Like I love it because it's like basically what we have felt for the last 20 years. And we have taken it on the chin. We've taken it on, the backside. We haven't said shit. We accept it. And now it's like when it's on the shoes on the other foot, man, they are having such a hard time dealing with this. And it is beautiful to watch, which leads me into my L's, if that's okay. Do you have any more W's or?
Go ahead. Those are my W's. Yep.
The crybaby, the L goes to Green Bay Packers fans for just being absolutely crybabies about everything that has happened. Oh, we didn't have Michael Parsons. It's moving the goalpost every time. Oh, you can't beat the Packers when Jordan Love is healthy. Guess what? They beat the Packers when Jordan Love was healthy. Oh, we didn't have Michael Parsons. Oh, I'm sorry. The Bears were 100% healthy too. It's not like we lost our starting left tackle, starting linebacker in the middle of a game for the rest of the year because they broke, they broke bones and shit. So it's like Give me a freaking break. And not only that, it's all the crying about Ben Johnson saying fuck the Packers. It's all the crying about like how Ben Johnson barely shook Matt LaFleur's hands. It's it's about the crying of like, it's unprofessional that, you know, that they would treat this way after you had Clay Matthews stand on the stage in Green Bay saying the Bears still suck. After Aaron Rodgers runs onto the field doing discount double check saying, I still own you.
I still own you, yeah.
And that's okay, right? But
and did you hear leading up to Saturday night, there were a lot of Packers players saying like, we wanted the Bears, like we want to face the Bears for a third time. So it's like, you know what? If you wanted us, you got us, and you got beat by us. So take
Caleb said it
and move on. Yeah.
Caleb said it. You wanted us, and guess what? They got it. No, I loved it. I have 2 more L's. One, I'm going to keep on trend and keep on brand here. You know, Aaron Rodgers potentially finishing his career with the pick 6 was absolutely lovely. So, but it also got, Mike Tomlin stepping down as well too, because it was just really bad playoff performance. And he obviously, after 19 years, is stepping down as a head coach, which I think living in Pittsburgh, those fans are really insufferable when it comes to Mike Tomlin. I think they are going to be in for a rude awakening to realize what they really had, because I think that guy maximized rosters beyond what they should have done. He didn't have a losing season in 19 years. So I will give an L to Steelers fans, even though they're probably celebrating. I think they're going to find out exactly what it feels like. We know to not have a true head coach in that building. So, And then I got one more L.
Okay.
Can you guess where I'm going with it?
I think I see it on the bottom here with our buddies at the Chicago Sports Bums. Yeah.
Bum of the year, Cubs fans, as part of their bracket for Bum of the Year for 2025. I'm bumming them for 2 reasons. One, how dare you put Cubs fans in here on your list for Bums of the Year? 2, how dare you not put yourselves on Bums of the Year for still not paying up your bet 2 years later? So, how about we create a Praz and Daddy region, and we have Peter, we have Jason, we have Johnny, we have Joey, and we have Dougie ranked 1 through 5, and then we can fill out 6. We could fill out 6 through whatever after that, right? So we could have 6 through 16, right? We could pick whoever else, but they would be my top 5 because they still owe us. And how dare they? How dare they?
In fairness to HBIC, it does give the reason there, like for donating to Bleacher Jeff to go to Japan. I don't think that he did that in good faith, though. I think he knows that like he appeals to a Sox fan crowd, and they're always going to vote for the Cubs fans being bums. So whatever.
Also, then not in good. Yeah, also not in good faith for HBIC then, because he knew he was going to get the Cubs hate automatically. So
correct. Yeah,
double bum
for sure.
2 cheeks.
2 cheeks.
All right, you go. What do you got? What do you got for L's?
All right, L's. All right, so shoot, I have one in mind. There was a bigger one that I had, but I'll go with the one I have in mind first. L to Athletic MLB prospects writer Keith Law. Do you subscribe to the Athletic at all, or?
I used to. I didn't really use it enough to really get value out of it, but
okay. Keith Law, in his article discussing the Cubs signing Alex Bregman.
I know where you're going.
Decided to take a little side swipe at Matt Shaw. And saying that the most obvious candidate to trade now is Matt Shaw, whose rookie season was a disappointment at the plate due to some frequent mechanical changes. And according to people I spoke to, resistance to help from the Cubs staff. And then, of course, he had to take the low-hanging fruit here. He also made his priorities clear when he left the team during the pennant race to attend a political rally, missing a game the Cubs lost 1-0. Now, look. You and I both talked about this when it happened. We were not fans of Matt Shaw doing that. But if you don't like that, just say that. As far as any sort of help that Matt Shaw was resistant to from the Cubs coaching staff. Matt Shaw earlier this year do you remember like the first few games he played in the major leagues when he had that batting stance where his like ass was kind of facing the pitcher and he was really struggling at the plate? And then as we mentioned earlier, he was struggling in the field too. And he went down to Iowa and he came back up. He had a change in his stance. He was fielding balls a lot better then. It was pretty clear that there were changes made when he was there, and he hit much better there, and he fielded much better after coming back. So, Keith Law, look, I know you're a national baseball guy. Probably don't watch the Cubs very frequently that much.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you see Matt Shaw's name pop up when, he attends what he attends and, do with that what you will. You're looking for a cheap shot to go after Matt Shaw because you don't like that. And if you don't like that, fine. But LTU, because on the field, Matt Shaw made the adjustments he needed to make.
I'll say this. There's two parts of this that prove to me that this was a personal swipe more than it was like a factual thing. You're saying in the same breath that there were several mechanical changes, but then he's also refusing to take help from the staff. So which one is it? Because if he's making mechanical changes, someone is telling him to make those changes. So if he's taking those changes from like his hitting and coaching staff, but then you're saying he's resistant to it, like which one is it? Like, and you're not saying it was one or two, you're saying several mechanical changes, which means that it's more than 2 to 3, right? Yeah. So, that already right there felt like, okay, I already know where you're going with this, because then I saw the next comment that was he was at a political rally. Let me clear this up right here, because I had feelings about this too. I'll be very open, and I don't want to get political about it, but I was not a fan of Charlie Kirk, right?
Right.
I think like that's been very clear. I would never wish what happened to him on anyone else, and I think we talked about on our show like that was tragic. Like, he was still a father, he was a husband. Whether I agreed with anything he said or not, he was a human being.
Yeah.
That was not a political rally that Matt Shaw went to. That was a memorial for a friend.
Exactly.
Right? Now, if you want to talk about him going to Turning Point USA after the fact, that's a whole different conversation that we can have, that we like or dislike about that. But in that moment, he went to a personal friend's memorial / funeral, right? So that it is really misleading. It's irresponsible, and it's bad journalism, in my opinion, to verb it the way that he did. So I agree, L to Keith Law for that. That's a great L on your part, because whether we agree with it or not, like, let's be honest, right? If we're, say what you want to say it with your chest, but don't hide behind words. Don't use bad journalism to say what you want to say. Because it is misleading and it's inappropriate, right? Like, I think it just was really, it's just bad taste. So whether I agree with Matt Shaw or not, I'm going to defend him in this moment, because that was really shitty of Keith Law too.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Any other L's that you have?
I had one in my mind. I guess piggyback on what you said earlier about, Green Bay fans and everything like that. Just not just specifically, Green Bay fans, but just anyone who had anything complaining about like what Ben Johnson did post game. Like, who cares if he said F the Packers or the handshake? Like, this is a friggin' rivalry, man. So like,
I love it.
Anyone who had a problem with what Ben Johnson did on Saturday night after that game, like, pound sand, man. Like, it's. You really think Mike Ditka and Forrest Gregg were like having long?
They hated each other.
Yeah, exactly.
George Halas used to call Vince Lombardi and say, "We're going to kick your ass."
Right.
Here's the thing that I have with this too, and I'm glad you brought it up again. You have all these people and sports fans that are so sick of leagues. Like, let's talk about the NBA, right? NBA is losing viewership, and I think a lot of it, people complain that like it's too. All these guys want to be friends. They want to play with each other. They want to be buddies. They're swapping jerseys. You see it in the NFL. They're swapping jerseys, signing each other's jerseys for them and stuff like that. Like, and God, this is where, like, I'm not the most like toxic, masculinity kind of like advocate here, right? But I think this is a moment where, like, this is sports, man. Like, I want some of that machismo. I want you to hate. I want my head coach and I want my organization to represent me. I hate the Green Bay Packers. I hate their fans. I hate their football team. I hate Wisconsin. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
from a sports standpoint, not as a state. I'm just saying, like, from a sports standpoint, I hate them. I want my head coach, my organization. When George McCaskey stiff-armed a fan to get out of a pitcher, I was like, I was the most proud I was of George McCaskey ever.
Yes.
And I know he's always been like that. He is a fan. He loves the Bears. He's just an awful owner. He's just stupid. He's, he can't get out of his own way. And I think maybe he finally has by hiring Ben Johnson. And it's like, we've been asking for this. We've been wanting this. We've been wanting it to feel like a rivalry where we're no longer the doormat. And now Ben Johnson has created this culture of like, fuck those guys. I hate them. We will do whatever we have to do to beat them. And it feels genuine. Like, we don't want to be the doorman anymore. You don't have Matt Eberflus going out with Matt LaFleur to a Milwaukee Bucks game.
Right.
I don't want that shit. Like, that shit pissed me off. Like, to me, that was a terminable offense right away. Like, it didn't even need the Washington Commanders game or the timeout, blunder that happened in Detroit. That alone, like, if I'm the owner, you're fired, dude. Like, you're hanging out with the enemy, get fucked. Yeah, dude, I love it. I love Ben Johnson's like tenacity. And you saw it. He gave Sean McVay his kudos and the Rams, like, in his presser. Like, he's gonna give respect where respect is due, but I think there's something else going on with Matt LaFleur and Ben Johnson that we don't know about. But
right.
I don't know. I love it. And it was great.
Yeah.
I love this. Fuck those guys. All right. Well, we'll see what happens, here in the offseason. We still got a few more weeks before pitchers and catchers reconvene. And, we'll obviously try to set some stuff going into February and March as we get into closer to spring training and we actually have some live baseball being played. Let's cross our fingers. Maybe we come back together sooner than later because there's another big signing that we're able to talk about. But we appreciate you all tuning in. Mike, any last words that you want to share with the audience?
Just say I really hope that Nico Horner doesn't get traded. I hope that they find a way to extend him, but I'm also not all that confident in it. We'll see how it all plays out, but don't just force a trade because that's not there, because the Cubs are a better team with Nico Horner in 2026 than without him, regardless of what his status is in 2027.
Well said, man. I love that.
Yep.
All right. Well, we're signing off here. Thanks for joining the Bums and the Bleachers podcast. We're super glad to be back. It's great to talk baseball. And obviously our focus right now is on the Chicago Bears. We've got a big game coming up here on Sunday evening. They got the primetime game against the Los Angeles Rams. It's going to be a cold one. And I think that plays in our favor, which I hope that it continues that trend of dome teams really struggling in weather that's under 20 degrees. It's Bears football. I don't know if you saw too, Ben Johnson has the team practicing outside with no space heaters right now.
Ooh, I love it.
And they said the team was really upset when he started doing it and now are starting to see the value of it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see how it goes on Sunday. I mean, I think this is I'm a little concerned. I'm a little worried. I think the Rams offense is explosive, but I think the Bears can be too. They just got to get off to a better start. I mean, honestly, they can't keep doing this. It's not sustainable to have to come back in the fourth quarter every year or every week. So
it's not sustainable, but yeah, we'll see how it all plays out.
I mean, they've done it this far, so maybe I'm wrong.
They've come this far with it. Exactly.
All right. Well, bear down, everybody. Bear down, claws up. Let's celebrate these Cubbies. Hopefully they make another big move. Maybe they make it on Sunday. Maybe they surprise us again. That would be great. And then we're here talking Monday, celebrating two things. But I appreciate you. Have a great night, y'all.
All right.